Good day and welcome to today's lesson. We are going to start with an introduction to financial mathematics today. This lesson is pitched at the level of grade 7, but if you are in more senior grades, you are welcome to join us and think of this as revision. So financial maths, it's very practical because we work with financial maths every day, and it's really important that you understand it. Now, the first thing that you need to take into account is that to properly work with financial mathematics, you need to understand percentages. Oh yes, and to understand percentages, you need to understand decimal fractions and fractions. So if you need to refresh your knowledge of fractions and decimal fractions, please refer to those lessons. So percentage, you will remember, is just a special fraction where the denominator is 100. And then you have a top value of whatever the case may be. So it's very important that you understand that 50 out of 100 equals 50%. 7 out of 100 equals 7%. This is a key aspect of financial mathematics that you have to understand really, really well. The second important aspect that you need to understand is that financial mathematics often works with ideas like installments, payments, and interest. Now, interest can work both ways. If you borrow money from somebody, a bank for example, or a rich uncle, you, the borrower, pays interest. In other words, if you borrow 100 Rand from your rich uncle at 5% interest, and let's make that interest per year, that means at the end of a year, you have to repay your uncle not 100 Rand, but 105 Rand. Because you calculated 5% of 100, and that has to be added on, so you have to pay more than you originally borrowed, because that's how interest works. Now, of course, the person that gives the loan, he gets that interest. So if you have some savings and you take it to the bank and you ask the bank to keep the savings for you at a particular interest rate, that means that your money will increase. Right. So let's do an example. A person buys a TV at the cost of 6,500 Rand. Now, sometimes you can, what you do when you buy something and you don't pay the full amount immediately, you're actually borrowing money from that business. And this is called hire purchase. Hire purchase. So you are doing a down payment. Now, here's another important word. Often, you have to pay a deposit. A deposit is your first payment. That is often worked as a percentage of the full amount. So sometimes I'll say you have to pay 10% or 20% of the full amount. In this case, this person pays 500 Rand deposit. She pays 500 Rand deposit. She has to pay interest of 6% per year. And this is simple interest. Later on, you will learn about some compound interest, which is very nice if you have money and very not nice if you have to borrow money. So it's per year. Now, when you see, just something else, when you see this abbreviation per annum, PA stands for per annum, and annum is the Latin word for year. So just don't get confused. When you see PA, it means per annum, annum means year. So she has to pay 6% interest. Now she gets 2 years to pay off this television. Now what do we need to calculate? We want to know how much is her monthly installment. That's possibly another word that you might not be familiar with. Her monthly installment, and don't be like me, installment only has one L. What is her monthly installment? Installment is the amount that she has to pay every month for this television that she has bought on hire purchase. So let's put that there, and let's, no, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done? What have I done? No, 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 don't do that. So, how much is her monthly installment? Let me just see if I can get this right. Okay, so now let's do the calculation. So she has paid 6,500. That's the cost of the TV. She's already paid 500 Rand. So let's first calculate the outstanding amount. And when you do these problems, it's a very good idea to write your sum out exactly like this. Before you do that calculation, explain, what am I calculating? I'm now calculating the outstanding amount. The outstanding amount will be 6,500 minus the 500 deposit that she's already paid. And that is 6,000 Rand. So the outstanding amount is 6,000 Rand. Now, let's calculate what amount is the interest that she is going to pay per year for 1 year. Remember, for 1 year. So now we're going to say, what are we going to calculate? We're going to calculate the interest for 1 year. And that is 6%, which we write as 6 over 100 times 6,000 over 1. We want to calculate, and I'm just going to put, we want to calculate 6% of 6,000 Rand. And you know that of means multiply. And 6 out of 100, we write, 6% we write as a fraction. That's why we do this calculation. So what we can do now, we can either say those two zeros can be cancelled out, and then we just say 6 times 60 over 1, and that's our answer. And that is going to be 6 times 6 is 36, but we have that 0. That gives us 360. So that is our interest for 1 year. Remember, she is going to spend 2 years to pay off this amount. So the interest, now we're going to calculate the interest for 2 years is going to be 360 Rand times 2. And that equals 720 Rand. So she is going to not pay 6,000 Rand, she's going to pay in total 6,000 plus 720 Rand for this television that she has purchased for per hire purchase agreement. So now we are going to calculate I'm just going to write this down. We've done this total amount is therefore 6,720 rand. We want to know how much does she have to pay every month. So 2 years equals 24 months. I'm muted. I don't want to be muted. Her monthly installment is going to be, what the calculation that we're going to do is 6,720 divided by 24, and that equals 280 rand. And that is a very basic financial mathematics problem. Let's recap. What do you need to pay attention to? You need to pay attention to this formulation. Very important. 6% of 6,000 rand, or whatever your numbers are, you write it as 6 over 100 times, and then you take that whole number and you put it over 1. And then you solve that problem. The other important aspect that you must remember when you do these problems, first write out, what am I calculating? Write down, what am I calculating? Do the calculation. What am I calculating? Do the calculation, get the value. Because to get to the final answer, you use all these different values that you've calculated. And if you don't set it out properly, then you're going to have many little calculations and you won't know which number to use for which part of the problem. What I would like you to do now is to take this video and follow the steps step by step, pausing the video when you need. First, try to solve the problem and then play the video again as you work through the answer and see if your answer agrees with the video. And that is our first problem of financial mathematics for grade 7.